Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Wade. I'm going to be continuing on with the discussion of Chapter 5 on IPDE. Mr. Kaysen took you through identify and predict, so we're going to continue that discussion by focusing on decide and execute. Now, you learned that in order to identify and predict, you have to start seeing things that's going around you. And as new drivers, that's going to be a little bit new to you, but as you gain more experience in your driving habits, you will start seeing things that you normally would not see. And hopefully you have discovered in the Google Classroom and the classroom and the classwork area under materials, you found the chapter textbook that area so that you can go through and follow possibly this lesson presentation, but more importantly, how to do your homework in the future. So as we said, identifying was about seeing what you had to see and how to predict and then make the proper decisions. So with deciding, you have three potential decisions to make. And in any time, you may be using only one of these decisions, but then sometimes you will be using a combination of the three. You'll be involving decisions on speed, how to change the direction of your vehicle when you see a hazard, and then how to communicate your decision, the actions you're going to make to others, so to lessen any particular or potential hazard involvement. So with speed, so in order to make a decision about speed on your own, for your own vehicle, you're going to ask yourselves these questions, or you can be making decisions based upon these three questions. So how do I maintain my speed? If you've been driving already with your parents, maybe you've already learned how to do that. But particularly when you start driving with us in the car with your instructors, you'll know maintaining your speed is having that good pressure control with your foot on the accelerator, and you learn how to maintain it. You will also learn how to notice the speed limit and notice how the flow of the car movement feels at when you're going at different speeds at, let's say, 25 or 30. In Oak Park, most of the driving is going to be at 25. That would be the same in River Forest. But you're going to learn how to maintain your speed. You're going to learn how to slow down. And slowing down could be limiting your pressure on the accelerator or slightly using brake pressure. So you're going to learn how to do that. And then the other piece is how do you influence your speed is by speeding up. Speeding up allows you to maintain the speed limit or get to the speed limit from when you have been at a full stop at a red light or a stop sign. But these are all the three different decisions you're going to make, and you will learn how to make the decisions well as you gain more experience with your vehicle and with the feel of motion of the vehicle as you're driving. With the issue of changing direction, so in order to change your position on the roadway, remember the roadway is the road that you're traveling on, the street that you're traveling on, you will need to steer to the right or the left. That means maintain a position within your lane. We'll talk maybe a little bit further about that. So a greater change of direction might even be a lane change. Now around Oak Park, there aren't many streets that you have to be concerned about lane change because many of them are just two-way streets. Traffic going in opposite directions in one lane, like Oak Park Avenue, Lake Street, Chicago Avenue, Ridgeland, many streets like that. We do have multiple lane roads around Oak Park, mostly the border roads, being Harlem Avenue and North Avenue in particular. So to do a lane change or to make your position or to move your vehicle from right or left, you need to understand the zone around your car. Your zone, as we call it, a open zone, a space cushion, is to help you to avoid conflict. This is that space all around your vehicle, to the front, to the rear, to the right, and to the left. It's sort of like you see the picture on your left there. There's that bubble, that space, or for you space trekkies, the force field around your vehicle that you're going to try to keep it open at all possible so that you can have a safe travel down the path in which you're directing. So with doing so, going right or left or steering right or left, sometimes you're steering within your lane. You have to be in the proper position in order to do an action that's going to be requiring you. Lane position 1 is the center of the lane. This allows you to have a good look for the target area that's way in front of you, probably about at least 2 blocks. So that's the center of the lane between the yellow median line and the white line near the curve. Lane position is closer to the center line or the yellow line. And in most cases, that's where you're going to be placing your vehicles to position your vehicle for a left turn or possibly to go around parked cars. And again, that issue will be, or that action will be worked with you as you're in the car, and maybe it's already happening when you're in the car with your parents. As many parents are saying, get away from parked cars. All right, lane position 3 is the position you're going to be using that's closer to the right curb. And in many cases, that's where you position your vehicle in order to make a right turn. So you have 3 lane positions, 1 in the center, 2 to the left, 3 to the right. So with that, you're still going to have to manage your space, and you're going to get better with that because the safest place in traffic is where the fewest vehicles are around you. So you want to keep that space around your vehicle clear and clean. Leave yourself an out. Try to keep yourself away from any other action. And as you look at the vehicle, at the picture on the left, you're showing that's not a good place to have open space around you, whereas the one on the right is maybe a little bit more of an exaggeration of an open space. But I think you're getting the point that you want to keep the space around you as open as possible so as to avoid any potential conflicts. The other element is changing direction. And to do so, you may have to make the decision of how to communicate. As you see on the slide, it says communication clears confusion, and confusion causes collisions. That's what we want to do, is to avoid collisions. I believe there's no such thing as an accident. Things just don't happen. Things happen because of confusion between roadway users. So we're going to help you understand how to send and receive those messages to help reduce any possibility of conflict with other roadway users. So how are you going to do that? You're going to use your lights. Depending upon the time of day, it could be using your high beam lights that you learn how to flash. But in most cases, your signals are going to be evident of communication for drivers to let you know that you're planning to turn. Your brake lights are going to tell folks that you're planning to stop or beginning to stop, or reverse as you're coming out of a parking space or you're backing up to get into a parking space. There's your horn that many of you will learn how to use if you haven't already done so. Vehicle position, again, relates to that lane position. Are you in the center? Are you up to the left or to your right? And as you're driving, as you position your car in those positions, other roadway users will know just where you're planning to go or what you're planning to do. Now, eye contact is another important one because as you see in the picture and the figure on the right, the person in the red car is signaling and making eye contact with you to let you know that either she is or he is going to wave you on to allow you to have the right of way through the intersection, or they're telling you that I'm going to go first. So telling you I'm going to go first relates to body movement. Basically, it means that your body's inside the car. As that car moves, you're telling the other roadway user that you plan to take the right of way or to move first. But there's other things you need to know. You need to see, as you see on the screen, you need to know how to handle hazards. So as you've identified and are predicting that there is a hazard in front of you, you're going to need to know, how do I minimize myself with that hazard? How do I separate myself from that hazard? And how do I compromise my space with a hazard? So minimize, as you see, it says put more distance between you and the hazard, meaning moving away from parked cars. Separate means to adjust your speed, and we talked about how to change your speed. It could be braking, or it could be easing your foot off the accelerator so that you can only deal with one hazard at a time, meaning you may be approaching parked cars and there's a bicyclist coming in another direction or also in front of you, and you're adjusting your speed to allow that bike to get ahead of you. Because we want to avoid handling multiple hazards at the same time. Okay. Compromising says give as much space as possible to the greater hazard. So that just means that as you're looking ahead and you've identified and predicted that there are greater hazards or multiple hazards, I'm going to look at one which is greater. Now, think in your textbook for all of these, you're seeing examples of how to judge and see just what a greater hazard might look like. And I believe there is one example in your textbook on the compromised space hazard. You see a large truck who is approaching you from the opposite direction, and they are avoiding a hazard. They're minimizing and separating themselves from a hazard that they see in front of them, and they're moving over into your lane. And in your lane, there are parked cars. So the greater hazard is a truck that's moving into your space. So you're going to change speed or change direction to allow that greater hazard to leave, and then you will minimize and handle the hazards of the parked cars. So minimize, separate, compromise. Learn these well because they will be things that these are three things you'll have to learn how to identify and handle in your future driving. So again, minimize hazards. We see the three pictures that we see. We see at the upper left there, we see a person either getting in or getting out of a parked car with the car door open. And you see beyond that a stop sign. You see that traffic's not approaching you. So to give more distance, you are going to you're going to move yourself to the left to go around that vehicle. If the person has not closed their car doors, so as to minimize and give you a distance between that particular scenario. The other one you see is that you're driving in your direction with an open zone in front, but you see bicyclists on your left. And knowing the unpredictability of bicycles as to which direction they may go, sometimes they change directions abruptly. So you may move over to lane position 3 in your lane in order to give you greater distance between those particular hazards that you've seen. And then the last one we see on the far right, you see the yellow car moving down a two-way street on your side with parked cars on your side near the curb. And to give yourself distance, you're moving to lane position 2 so that you are giving distance between you and parked cars. With separating, again, you're seeing multiple hazards. In your case, the one on the left, you're seeing that you're approaching your path with another vehicle going around parked cars from the opposite direction. So again, you're going to change your direction or you're going to change your speed depending upon what's the best choice to make. And I would say in this case, it would be to change your speed. And then on running right, again, we see multiple hazards. We see parked cars. We see a pedestrian approaching, possibly one of those parked vehicles. You see a double parked FedEx truck. We see oncoming traffic in the opposing lane. We see parked cars on the other side of the street. So what will I do to separate them? I'm going to separate myself from those multiple hazards. I'm going to change speed and direction so I can give myself space to see and allow the greater hazards, which in this case could be the parked cars, to pass through and then move around the double parked vehicle if it is not moved out of the way. Compromise is again another point of looking at multiple hazards. But in this case, it's particularly what is the greater one? And the greater one that is moving possibly into my path of travel. So if you look at the one on the right, you see that the larger truck moving out of their lane, giving themselves distance from the vehicle that's either parallel parking or coming out of a parking space. But because you're predicting that it may come into your lane, you can see that the yellow car is choosing to stop, change directions, moving closer to the parked cars. It gives open space to the greater hazard. Now, what could have been better is if that greater hazard, the big truck, could have waited and changed its speed or direction to let the parked car come out. So these are things you're going to have to be learning to see and how to respond to. So in the whole story here, we're saying that IPDE takes time and practice. It takes time and practice to put these decisions we just gone over into action. It takes experience to see things. It takes experience and practice to understand what those hazards might be like. So you must have time to identify clues and to change, and then changing zones. Remember the space cushion. You must have time to predict the actions of others. You need to know the more the complex the traffic situation, the longer it takes to carry out the process. So that means maintaining speed limit and changing speed or direction in order to have better understanding of what decision you need to make. So as you ride with other drivers, practice the I and the P, the D and the E, know all those steps, and with your parents, ask them questions about, am I identifying, or maybe in many cases your parents will be asking the question if they haven't. Get used to the fact they're going to be asking you, do you see that car? What are you going to do about it? What decision are you going to make? How are you going to execute? And as you continue to get better and better with your practicing, these decisions on the IPDE process will work for you. So again, let's look at another examples. So as you gain more experience with driving, you're going to predict that before that ball came out, you saw the young children on the right on the sidewalk playing with the ball. So identifying them playing with the ball on the sidewalk, you can predict that as they play, as most children do, the possibility of that ball coming out of the street as you see there. So by identifying and predicting, you've already changed your speed so that when the ball comes out, and more than likely the children will follow after the ball without looking to see if a car is coming, you'll be in a better position to respond to the hazard by braking and stopping and allowing them to retrieve the ball. In this particular scenario, again, you're looking at all the hazards that are potential. You see large trucks, parked cars. You see the vehicle in front of you with the possibility of brakes, which you can't see, but you're going to learn to identify. If there are stop signs, your eyes are going to start learning how to scan and notice where stop signs are placed at intersection. So in this case, with this Cisco truck is blocking the right side of the intersection that you're approaching, you're going to change your speed to travel slowly so that you can have a better look of scanning the intersection so that you're in a better position with a slower speed to execute a good decision. In this scenario, your decision could be to go straight through the intersection. You're at a stop sign. In this case, it looks like it could possibly be a four-way, but in any event, you see pedestrians. One thing you see, the pedestrians are looking before they cross, but they are crossing the intersection at the crosswalk. And you'll have learned by now that when you see pedestrians, once they enter the crosswalk, it is required by Illinois law for vehicle drivers, all cars, to stop for pedestrians to go through. But in any case, you're identifying pedestrians, you're identifying, predicting that they're not interfering with your path of travel if you're continuing through the intersection. You can look to see left and right if things are clear for you to go through, and you're going to make the decision that it is okay for me to proceed through. I have the right of way through this intersection, and I will execute that decision. So what we have, guys, is the finish of the Chapter 5 on IPDE. Again, remember, you're new drivers. As you gain experience with practicing with your parents and with instructors, as we start in-car instruction, you'll gain more understanding of what to be looking for, where should I be looking, how should I be looking, how the motion of a vehicle is, so that as I move forth, I will be making good uh, execution of my vehicle on the roadway.